What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Q&A. So the first question is, when should I drink my Casein protein powder? Now, I would say there's two main times that you should drink Casein protein powder. The first one, which most people do, and what's sort of advertised as, is before bed. So because Casein takes a long time to break down, you have it before you go to bed, so you get a sort of constant influx of amino acids while you are sleeping. The other time, which I take it as well, is in the morning when you are fasted. So if you are doing intermittent fasting, I think taking Casein protein powder in the morning is also a good call. And this is because this isn't going to really negate a lot of the benefits of fasting. You're still getting a lot of the benefits, but you're also not going catabolic. Because you still have amino acids floating around in your bloodstream, you can still use those to build muscle. But you are also still burning fat. So it's not like you have a whole meal that comes along with, a lot of fat, a lot of carbs. You're only getting in that protein. Plus, as compared to whey, it doesn't spike your insulin or your blood sugar at all. And so casein is going to be a better choice for when you are in a fasted state. Strictly speaking, you're not in a fasted state because you do have food in your body that is incoming. But I think this is a good balance between still getting in some protein and not being in a completely fasted state where you could potentially lose muscle. What's the worst injury you've ever had? I've had a bunch of minor injuries. I actually already sort of answered this question in the last Q&A, so if you haven't caught that, check that out. It's maybe a month ago or so. Alright, the next one. What should I expect from high rep workouts? Well, they're definitely very taxing mentally. Doing sets of 15, 20, 25 reps, especially on legs, is going to be very, very mentally draining. Whereas, doing sort of that 5 to 15 rep range, I mean, it's still difficult, obviously, especially if you're going close to failure, but doing super high rep leg workouts are really just brutal. I would say that if you don't really enjoy traditional cardio, for example, if you don't like running, you don't like rowing, you don't like swimming, you don't really have any kind of like hobby or aerobic activity that you can do to get cardiovascular exercise, I'd say high rep leg training is probably the way to go. And the other benefit is that it's going to have good carryover to your lifting. So if your 20 rep max or 25 rep max goes up on squats, it might not directly carry over to a 1 rep max squat, but you're just building your base. So a pyramid can only be as high as its base. And your base is going to be your 10 rep max, your 12 rep max, 15, 20, 25, your accessory movements. And so high rep leg workouts and just high reps in general are going to be a good way to build your base. Beast mode, activate. And actually, if you look at the majority of powerlifters, a lot of them do fairly high reps. I mean, I've seen Dan Green do sets of 15, sets of 20, and this isn't unusual. Even Chinese weightlifters, they'll do sets of 10 or 15 on some of their accessory workouts. So I don't think it's really going to affect your strength negatively at all, and I think you can get a lot of benefits from that base effect. What kind of supplements do you recommend for a quick build of 2 months? I don't know what that means, but I did do a video on supplements. Really, the only supplements I would recommend would be the aforementioned Casein protein powder. Maybe whey after a workout is good as well. Apart from that, maybe fish oil, creatine, multivitamin. That's about all. I mean, there's really not that many good supplements. If you think about it, if a supplement was good, it would be banned by the World Anti-Doping Association. They have tons of banned, thousands of banned substances. So if something is legal, it's probably crap, okay? It's like drugs. It's like any drugs. If something is amazing, it's going to be banned. What is your most underdeveloped muscle? I'm going to answer this, but I'm also going to say how to find out which of your muscles are underdeveloped. So for me, I would say it is quads as well as chest. And the reason I can tell this, there's a few ways. One is that people never compliment my chest or my quads. They'll compliment my arms, my shoulders, my back, blah, 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 whatever, but never the chest and almost never the quads. So if someone compliments some areas of yours, they say, wow, bro, nice calves, then you know calves are not a weak point on you. It's just how it is. If they say, wow, your arms are amazing, arms are probably not a weak point for you. You can also check by strength. I'll link in the description to some strength standards. So basically, if your overhead press is really good, relatively, your shoulders are probably a strong point. But if your bench press is relatively weak, your chest is probably a weak point. And you can do this for almost any lift. If you have a weak squat, odds are that your quads probably aren't up to par with the rest of your body. And you can go through this with almost any compound lift or isolation lift and just see, is your strength level up to what it should be? Also, calves are probably a weak point as well, as you can see here, but I also don't really care about calves at all. I probably train them just a few times per year. So basically just train however you want. Remember, it's your physique. Like, if other people judge you, it doesn't really matter that much. It's just build the physique that you want to build. If you don't really like big calves, don't build your calves. If you really like that big chest look, then focus more on that area. Just do whatever you want to do. It's your body. All right, the next question, shocking the muscle. Now, I assume you're referencing Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's really the one who uses this term. And when he says shocking the muscle, he's usually referring to drop sets. So he's not referring just to going to failure. He's referring to going to failure, dropping the weight, going to failure again, dropping the weight, and then going to failure yet again. And this is something that I think can be effective under some circumstances. Keep in mind, he was using anabolic substances, so he can recover fairly quickly. So for him to go to failure and again and again and again, he can do many sets like that, and he can still recover and train again a few days later. What I've noticed is that a lot of very good natural bodybuilders, they don't train like that. They take a more measured approach, and they don't go to failure all of the time. Or they just almost never go to failure. I've seen a lot of guys, especially older guys, in their 30s, 40s, and they don't go to failure. They almost never go to failure. They keep, 2 reps in reserve, 3, 4, 5 reps in reserve, and yet they look incredible. If you're natural, you just can't recover from that much punishment. And I've noticed that if I hold back, especially if I'm doing more volume, I will actually get better progress. For me, I actually can train too hard. I'll have to hold myself back. Not everyone is like that. If you are the type that naturally doesn't train that hard, yes, you might be able to take that shocking the muscle mindset and do really well, because that's going to force you to train at the optimal amount of intensity. I mean, it's been shown that you don't have to go to failure. You can grow muscle not going, even close to failure, keeping 3, 4, even 5 reps left in the tank. And especially if you're doing big movements, squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, rows, pull-ups, etc., you definitely don't have to go to failure to make really good progress. So, again, keep in mind who is saying this, what he was doing, and keep in mind also that he has amazing genetics. I've seen some training footage of him just doing stuff that would break other people. So keep in mind when he says shock the muscle, maybe that might cause you some issues. All right, the next one, for X grams of fat, how much SF, PUF, MUF? I assume this is saturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, and monounsaturated fat. Honestly, I don't keep track of this. It's not like, I don't even track my grams of fat, honestly. I don't track anything in terms of diet. I just eat what I want, depending on if I'm going up in weight or down in weight or maintaining. I think keeping track of your saturated, polyunsaturated, and monounsaturated fat is way too strict for the vast majority of people. If I had to give a ratio, it would be roughly even splits, so 33% of each. Why? Just because it's simple, honestly. If you do 50% saturated fat, that's fine, not that big a deal. If it's 40%, fine. 20%, really just fine. It's really not that big a deal. I think nutrition is important, but for most people, I've noticed that if they micromanage things too much, they get worse results in a lot of cases. So I think you should be aware of the importance of each of them, but I don't think you should micromanage things too much. Also keep in mind that saturated fat has been vilified for a lot of things that it's not really responsible for. So don't be afraid of saturated fat or any fat really. You do need fat in your diet for optimal health. Thoughts on CrossFit? Good and bad. A lot of bad, some good. The good is that it's really, making weight training popular, and I think it has a great community. A lot of people are working really hard, and honestly, anything that promotes exercise, I think, is overall a good thing. However, there is definitely a lot of bad. The injury rates seem to be very high. Often technique is very poor. You can't teach 20 people in a class Olympic lifting. Sorry, it's just not going to work. Another thing is that it is stupidly expensive. When clients tell me how much, their CrossFit classes are, or their CrossFit gym memberships are, I am blown away by how crazy expensive it is. I guess the equipment is a lot, rent, everything, I get it. They're probably charging a fair price, but I think for most people, just weight training is probably going to be enough. It does have a really good community, and I think, the top CrossFit athletes are just amazing. However, I think for most recreational, just normal people, might not be as good of a fit as a lot of people think. All right, next question. Are you losing fat when you're gaining muscle and the weight remains the same? Yes. So basically there's a bunch of different tissues in the body, but it's not like your liver is getting bigger or your heart is getting bigger. So basically most weight changes over the long term is going to be muscle or fat. Those are going to be the two big ones. Water can change a lot, but generally speaking, it's just going to be muscle and it's going to be fat. Water can fluctuate a lot, but the two big ones over the long term are going to be muscle and fat. So if you're getting muscle and you're the same weight, it means you probably have less fat. And you should be able to see this. I mean, especially if there's a significant amount of muscle gained and you're the same weight, you should notice less fat, I would say, in most cases. It depends. You should be able to tell with pictures. If you can't, something is really, really weird. All right, the next question, a little bit personal, but I'll try to answer as best I can. How did you meet your wife and career goals? So those seem like completely different questions, but they sort of connect actually. So I met my wife exactly 2 years ago. So 2 years ago to the day, June 1st. And coincidentally, that was actually the same day that I left my old job. So I worked at a blockchain company and they went under. They hadn't paid me in like 2 months. I should have left earlier, but I was just stupidly loyal. And so I finally left on June 1st and went to a different company. And that was the day that I met my wife, actually. We worked in the same sort of plaza here in Shenzhen. And after that, that company went under as well, just both blockchain companies, both, in a new industry and nothing I could do, just the funding ran out. The product wasn't that good. Well, the product didn't really exist, as is true for a lot of blockchain companies, but that's neither here nor there. And then I moved to doing my own thing, starting writing, starting posting on Quora, doing online personal training. And once you become an entrepreneur, I think it's really, really hard to just go back and work in an office. Just, wake up every day, put on a suit, get on the metro, go on the metro for an hour, sit at a desk, go to meetings that aren't really doing anything, going back on the metro an hour again, getting home, 9 or 10 p.m. at night, maybe squeezing in the gym occasionally. And, going from that to working for myself and training people and coaching people from home and being able to support myself, finally doing that is amazing. It's an awesome feeling. My wife and I have been living just in this piece of shit apartment. It's literally 10 square meters. And, it's been hard not having a steady paycheck for 2.5 years, basically. And but we're moving to a new apartment next week, and so it's nice, seeing all my hard work finally paying off. But in terms of career goals, I don't know if I want to be like a CEO or have a big company, which is sort of required to scale a product or a service to a high level. I think I'm fine just having a few select clients, doing my own thing, my own writing, my own books, maybe having products later, but I don't see myself having like hundreds of employees or opening up like Geoff Worldwide Corporation Franchise Mobile. Nah, I don't think that's really for me. So I think I'll just be happy doing my own thing and keeping things relatively small. All right, the next question, a lot less personal. High bar squats versus low bar squats. So the difference, of course, is the bar position. And there's also other differences. So because the bar is lower in the low bar squat, you are more bent forward and you're going to work more hips and more hamstrings. For high bar, you're going to be more upright, you're going to work more quads. And honestly, I prefer high bar. It feels more natural. If you, for some reason, prefer low bar, by all means go for that. Just keep in mind that low bar is going to be inherently more stressful to the lower back, to the shoulders, because you're in that pinned back position. If you are, getting shoulder pain and you're low bar squatting, it might not be bench press. It might be low bar squat. Same with your elbows, same with your wrists. Even with good technique, for a lot of people, you're going to get issues with those areas when doing low bar. And this is why even a lot of power lifters, what they do is they train high bar and they compete low bar. Because low bar, you're going to be a little bit stronger for most people, but high bar, it doesn't beat you up as much. So that's going to be better for training most of the time. All right, the next question. I've made a protein powder by grinding together protein-rich nuts and combining it with milk. Will this work? In terms of just getting in protein, sure. I don't know why you have to grind them up. You could just eat them like normal people eating things. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. Just keep in mind that nuts generally have a lot of fat. And so if you want to hit your protein numbers by using nuts, it's also going to be a lot of fat. So if you're going to be cutting, definitely not going to be good. Even if you're bulking, if you want to get in, say, 150 grams of protein, that might be 200 or 300 grams of fat, which is a whole heap of calories. Most people aren't going to need that much. Honestly, I would say most people should bulk on like 100 to maybe 150 grams of fat per day. All right, next question. Should I add chin-ups and accessories when doing 5x5? Yes, I would say so, especially if you are interested in hypertrophy. I think starting strength or 5x5, any 5x5 program, they're all pretty similar. They're all sort of stolen from starting strength, in my opinion, or most of them. I would say, yeah, accessorize. It's a starting strength program. It's for people who want strength and they're starting out. If you are not interested in strength and you want hypertrophy, you're going to need to add in some arms and shoulders for sure in order to get optimal hypertrophy. 5s is a pretty good rep range for strength, but if you want hypertrophy, you're going to want a lot of 10s, 15s, a little bit more variety, some back extensions, lateral raises, some rear delt raises, a lot more preventative work, as well as just dumbbells, and just more work, I would say. All right, the next question. I feel like I want to exercise the whole day, sort of like restless leg syndrome. How do I rest effectively? This is actually really important. A lot of people think, oh, if you have a lot of energy, you're naturally a very excitable person, you're going to be really good at working out. Maybe. If you are not resting, you're not going to be able to recover. And a muscle that is under tension, if you're all riled up and worked up and always moving, it's not going to be able to recover. So I recommend a big dosage of chill out. Just learn to relax, find something. Could be video games, could be meditation, could be walking. Find something that lets you just chill out. I don't know what it is. You're going to have to find it, but find something to help you relax. All right, the next question. Will you ever do videos solely dedicated to running? Yes. The only reason I'm not doing them is because I'm not running right now. I am up to 92 kilos. And once I get above 90 kilos, I don't really enjoy running. Plus, I just have other goals. Now that I'm finally back in the gym, I want to gain strength, gain size, and so all of my energy and effort and mental drive is going towards that goal. Nothing else. And it's sort of hard to make running videos if you don't have any running footage. Footage, get it? Ha ha ha. Least favorite exercise that you still use? I would say front squats. I mean, I don't really enjoy them that much, but I do think they are incredibly important, incredibly valuable for thoracic strength, keeping that chest up posture. I think it's very important. Quad strength, which is again a big weakness of mine, and just mental toughness. I mean, front squats, you gotta be a really sick person to enjoy front squats. And I only said that because I know there's probably someone watching, and I know who it is, who likes front squats, and he does front squats like every day. But really, it's a great exercise. It's just very uncomfortable for a lot of people, and it just feels very unnatural or very awkward compared to back squatting for most people. So give them a shot if you dare. Next one, tips for intermittent fasting. I get incredibly hungry. This depends when you're working out. So if you fast in the morning, then work out later, that should be okay. But if you work out in the morning and then you try to keep fasting, you're basically breaking your body down, then not giving it any fuel or resources to repair. So I would say change when you are working out, as well as just give it time. I mean, everyone who does intermittent fasting for a few weeks will be hungry at some point. But once you get used to it, your body will definitely adapt, both mentally and hormonally. How do you mix casein properly? It seems so thick and chunky. You chew it. You just chew it, bro. No, just add more water. It's actually even easier. Alright, next one. Do you do Olympic weightlifting? Not really. I have injured wrists from a motorcycle accident. My right wrist and my right elbow are not messed up, but they get sore really easily. I sprained it or messed something up during a motorcycle accident, which I was very lucky to only get that, to be honest. I was going pretty quick. But for that reason, I don't do traditional Olympic weightlifting. I do high pulls, so usually 100 kilos, 120, 140, somewhere in that range. And that gets most of the benefits in terms of trap development and explosiveness. Next one, any thoughts about relocating to another part of China, Shanghai, etc.? Nope, I like Shenzhen. I've been here almost a decade. It's very convenient, the policies are very agreeable, and it is my home, basically. You are only allowed to do 3 exercises. Which would you choose? I would say sumo deadlift, incline dumbbell bench press, and neutral grip pull-ups. And I'm running out of time, so I cannot tell you why. Alright, last question. Have you heard about what has happened in America? Yes, of course. I wrote an answer on it, and honestly, this should never, ever, ever, ever happen. It's just despicable. All 4 officers should be held accountable. Just because they are, wearing a uniform doesn't mean that they can murder someone in cold blood in daylight while being filmed. It's just horrible. Really, really horrible. And the entire system needs complete reform if we want to be able to live together in peace.